welcome back, sports gamers. It's the Natural. Now that we know that X Factor 2.0 is coming with 50 new abilities, let's take a look at some of the X Factors and abilities that must change for Madden 21. With more over-the-top plays than ever, star players truly felt head and shoulders above the competition in Madden 20, but maybe too much so. Given that this was Madden's first year with abilities, there were bound to be issues. For the franchise fan, there are players in the league that have certain abilities that make them nearly unstoppable in the right hands. If you're a fan of our own New York Giants series or Cookie Boys Miami Dolphins franchise series in our Premier Madden League, you've sure to seen how dominant Caden Stearns has been with Enforcer or Saquon Barkley was with Human Joystick. Some abilities feel like there's almost nothing you can do to stop them, and today we're going to take a look at the abilities that are overpowered that need changes for Madden 21, as well as taking a look at those that felt underpowered or pretty much useless. Starting right off with Escape Artist. Chances are you've played against an Escape Artist quarterback or been on the verge of pulling your hair out when they inevitably make a miraculous play flying out the pocket or scrambling for a touchdown. In a vacuum, there's not a huge issue with this. Guys like Russell Wilson and Lamar Jackson are slippery in the pocket in real life, and that's reflected in the game as it should be. For too long, athletic quarterbacks have been routinely chased down by 350-pound defensive tackles. There should be some kind of middle ground where a normal quarterback and one with Escape Artist, a 90-speed passer with no abilities, should be moving faster than an 80-speed quarterback with Escape Artist. It just doesn't make sense. Instead, the 90-speed quarterback moves like a 45-year-old Tom Brady with lead bricks tied to his ankles. An athletic quarterback should be able to make plays behind the line, and one with Escape Artist should have an added advantage when scrambling. The ability lets players make spectacular plays, but athletic quarterbacks should be able to move with or without abilities. Superstar ability should be a tool and not a crutch. Alright, moving on to Human Joystick. Considering the fact that running the ball is the meta this year, it shouldn't be surprising that this ability finds its way onto the list. I understand the point of this ability. If you've ever seen a guy like Darren Sproles or Dante Hall return punts in their prime, you know that some players are just that much more agile and elusive than others. However, this ability simply makes players contort their bodies in a way that's just not humanly or physically possible. Pair this ability with poor pursuit mechanics, poor pursuit angles, and you have a recipe for a Madden championship with 0 passes attempted. This ability can definitely use some bouncing. It could work so much more smoothly if it acted as an agility or elusive boost rather than creating an inhuman player. Physics has to matter in football, and Human Joystick really makes it look like it doesn't. Going on to Moss. Let's be real, Randy Moss was one of a kind. Despite all the extremely talented wide receivers coming to the game today, it's extremely unlikely that there will ever be another quite like him. This ability is definitely targeted towards MUT, and that's fine. It should be extremely rare in franchise mode, or taken out entirely is simply too overpowered. Yes, it's difficult to enter the zone for it, but it's pretty much unstoppable once engaged, and it doesn't fit in with the standards of a sim league. Moss is just too overpowered. It should be even harder to activate it, because once activated, it basically makes that player unstoppable in the game. You can just toss it up, triple, quadruple coverage, doesn't matter. Something that needs to be tuned. If they're going to keep it in, it has to be completely reworked and much harder to activate. Alright, moving on to a defensive ability on the list, Enforcer. Now, there are many players in the NFL that should be feared in the open field, but even the hardest hitters in league history didn't force a fumble on almost every damn hit stick. NFL record for forced fumbles in a season is 10 by Robert Mathis, Charles Tillman, and OC. However, in a franchise league, you see Enforcer defenders routinely put up twice that number in a season. The conservative ball carrying setting and the ball carrying abilities are counters, but one essentially ends any hope of creating big plays at all, and the other is pretty much a waste of an ability slot. A popular tactic for Enforcer defenders is the user control the player into position to make a tackle and then click off, allowing the AI to explode on the ball carrier with a big hit. This ability could be balanced by only allowing those monstrous hits when user controlled. It would take a great amount of skill to be able to take the right angles and line up the player in position for those hits, and it will help add another layer of skill to the user rather than relying on the ability as a crutch and accomplished by the CPU. Alright, so let's take a halftime break for talking about some of the abilities before we get into the underpowered ones to discuss development trait progression. Currently, there's no system in place for offensive linemen or quarterbacks to get a depth story for a development trait upgrade. The only way to boost the trait is through end of season rewards for quarterbacks, but that's no guarantee, and linemen can't get any at all. If a team is having success running behind a certain lineman, or a lineman has a great game against a pass rusher, they should be able to get a development story based upon team stats or sacks allowed. It will be difficult to obtain, but well worth the effort. As for quarterbacks, I understand the apprehension in giving them depth stories, because if anyone can easily obtain an X-Factor quarterback, there will be same plays left and right, and having one just wouldn't be as special. However, perhaps QB depth stories could be added to CFM, but as extremely rare frequency, extremely rare occurrence. Maybe they require a string of strong games to break out rather than one, or maybe a story could even appear after a great year and set as a goal for the next season that if fulfilled, they reward it with a depth upgrade. But they should be able to have depth stories. Every position should have the ability to have a depth story. Alright, shifting gears to the underpowered abilities that were pretty much useless or need a big boost. It feels as though offensive line abilities were merely a placebo or afterthought or band-aid for the extremely strong pass rushing abilities this year. A lineman should be able to develop into a Jonathan Ogden-X player who can stonewall a defender despite any competition. Currently, superstar abilities for the offensive line only feel like they slightly boost the blocking ability rather than making a lineman feel like a force to be reckoned with. The defensive linemen, when those guys get abilities, they are unstoppable. They get after the quarterback, but the offensive line ability ones, they just don't feel the same way. They don't make that player just ability to shut down any defender he matches up like the top linemen do. They really don't stand out like they should. The offensive line running abilities aren't too bad, but the pass ones, they just don't seem to be as effective as they should be versus those top tier defensive pass rushers. And moving on to one of the worst abilities in the game, leapfrog. Sure, the 1 in a million play where you actually manage to pull off a hurdle is a jaw-dropping play, but how often does it actually happen? Obviously, a successful hurdle is the rarest of the open field moves you see. Jukes, stiff arms, and spin moves are all way more common. With the rarity of it, why even make it an ability? At this point, I'd rather see a hurdle rating than waste an ability on it. This would make more sense in a bad system like 2K, but since they're limited abilities, leapfrog is generally a waste. In Madden 21, they've added the jurtle, or the side hurdle, which I'm sure will have a dumbass ability to go along with it, just like this one. Alright, on to another defensive ability, strip specialist. Now, if strips ball is already a player trait, wouldn't that mean this ability is a bit redundant? Yes, it is slightly different, but it never seems to work anyways. Maybe if it was boosted a bit, so edge rushers like Von Miller would strip the QB more often when they had this ability, but I just don't see it happening that often in games. This is one of those abilities that you get when your player first hits 80 overall, only to re-roll it instantly to get something better. Stripping the ball is pretty rare in my experience, and it seems more random than anything else. This one would need some major balancing, because if it was too effective, it would be overpowered and racking up fumbles just like Enforcer does. So it seems like the type of ability that could either be a total dud or one that causes major problems. I definitely don't envy the developers trying to balance these abilities with the rating systems. Perhaps this will change now when Madden 21 will make use of the NFL's next-gen stats that will update player stats and data in real time. That's yet to be seen how well that works with this new system and these superstar abilities, so the jury's still out. On the set feet lead, the last one on the list there, I'm not sure what happened with this ability, but when it was added to the game, it made the quarterbacks that got it worse. It seems to ruin accuracy ratings and makes passes totally erratic, making this ability the kiss of death for a franchise quarterback. This has the potential to be extremely useful if done properly. The ability to have increased input on ball placement would be a huge addition in certain situations, but with the way it currently functions, it's more of a burden than anything else. We've seen quarterbacks in our franchise get it and instantly try to re-roll to get rid of it because it really hurt their passing game. As a whole, I would say the first year superstar abilities in Madden was a success. They helped and added increased impact to the best players and truly made them feel like the best in the league. Patrick Mahomes feels distinctly different to play with compared to a random free agent quarterback. Whereas in the past, you could be successful with almost anyone if you had the right skill. Generally, abilities enhance player performance rather than substituting skill. With any new gameplay mechanic, it certainly was not perfect, it'll need some fine tuning, but overall, abilities that made the game more enjoyable and lets users make some of the spectacular plays we all see on Sundays. And last but not least, if you don't like abilities, there should be an option in every mode for anyone to just turn them off. That way, everyone's happy. And that's it. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And what do you like about Madden 20 abilities? What abilities should be on this list? And what abilities are you looking forward to for Madden 21? If you enjoy our content here at SGL, like, subscribe for more news, reviews, and tips from your favorite sports games. Want to take your game to the next level? Join us on Patreon and become SGL Insider today.